Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good evening and welcome to Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Osun Central senatorial candidates list out their plans for the district in Western Spring debate. Gunman kills 3 people at Michigan State University before killing himself. Indian tax authorities raid BBC offices in the wake of Modi's documentary. My name is Okmayemuni. Here in Osun State, citizens have been admonished to treat with relevance the legislative election as much as they do to the presidential election. Olayinka Ale was on the street of Osogbo to know if the residents know who they are voting for aside their presidential candidates.
Coverage in Nigeria tends to get skewed towards the presidency, expectedly because of the tremendous influence and powers that the office comes with. The 2023 election is another milestone election because the absence of any former heads of state or incumbent president means there will definitely be a new addition to the list of Nigeria's leaders. But focusing on the presidential election alone would be mistakenly disregarding the other important elections that are taking place, and in some cases much more impactful to Nigerians at certain levels. That is why it is important for citizens to avoid fixating strictly on the presidential elections and also make sure they are informed about the other elections like the State House of Assembly and the National Assembly. Sadly, quite a number of Nigerians don't even know who their candidates are for this election, aside the 3 presidential candidates. St. Morgan and Adetoro Adesoji said they do not know who their candidates for other elections are, simply because the presidential candidates have overshadowed others. The case is, however, different for Sherifat Asimiu, who spoke confidently in her native language, Yoruba, and insisted that citizens know who their candidate is.
And people that didn't know they're really candidate for House of Rep or House of Senate. His presidency has overshadowed all the candidates again. If they have money, as well contest too. I just tell Nigeria to just try and focus and do the right thing for the right people.
How do we know? Like myself, I don't even know anybody. I don't know anybody. I only know the presidential candidate. I don't know about any other candidates.
Àwọn èèyàn mọ̀ wọ́n torí àwọn tí wọ́n dìbò fún kálukú mọ̀ wọ́n ní Ọ̀ṣun State àtàwọn tí wọ́n wà ní àwọn kéékèèké kì í ṣe pé àwọn bíi àwọn àgbà nìkan ni wọ́n mọ̀ kò ṣẹ́ni tí wọ́n mọ̀ nínú wọn.
On the other hand, Sheriff Olalekan has urged Nigerians to take other elections as important as the presidential election. Because for Nigeria to be great, other arms of government election needs to be treated with relevance.
We need to take it as important because they need to work in hand in hand. But the presidential is the head because it's the one that will control the affairs of the nation. Whether it is controlled in normal way, the citizen will also benefit from it or otherwise.
Anthony Adejumo, who is the team leader of Urban Alert, an Osun-based non-governmental organization, believes that more attention needs to be focused on legislative elections. According to him, the legislature is just as important as the executive, which is why it must be peopled with politicians of repute.
It's so unfortunate that citizens are not focusing on the legislators, and for me, I feel it's a deliberate attempt to give too much power to the executive. You know, citizens in Nigeria have actually seen the legislators as not being important when it comes to democracy in Nigeria, and it's so unfortunate.
Meanwhile, the general election comes up on the 25th of February 2023.
It appears to certainly that quite a number of Nigerians did not know who their candidate for the State House of Assembly or National Assembly are, as the focus has been solely on the presidential election. Voters should, however, be aware that for Nigeria's democratic system to be further strengthened, it needs a responsive and responsible legislative arm, which is populated by credible, sound, and selfless lawmakers. Olayinka Ale, Western Spring.
In Africa, Equatorial Guinea has confirmed its first outbreak of the Marburg virus, following the deaths of at least 9 people to the highly infectious and deadly disease similar to Ebola. The World Health Organization, WHO, disclosed by Regional Director for Africa, Dr. Mashidiso Moeti, in the statement, said the Central African country quarantined more than 200 people and restricted movement last week in its Care-Intem province after detecting an unknown hemorrhagic fever. It noted that thanks to the rapid and decisive action by the Equatorial Guinean authorities in confirming the disease, emergency response can get to full steam quickly. It disclosed that in addition to 9 deaths, Equatorial Guinea has reported 16 suspected cases of Marburg virus with symptoms including fever, fatigue, and blood-stained vomit and diarrhea. According to the World Health Organization, Marburg virus disease can have a death rate of up to 88%, while there are no vaccines or antiviral treatments approved to treat it. Tunisian police have arrested 2 more prominent opponents of President Kais Saied and the head of a radio station that has broadcast criticism of the president. The detentions yesterday comes amid a wave of arrests targeting politicians and other critics of the government. According to a lawyer of a senior official in the biggest opposition party, Ennahda Noureddine Bidi Samri Dilou, police raided the home of a prominent critic of Saied and took him away. It disclosed that the police stormed Noureddine Bidi's house, assaulted his wife, and arrested him. Ennahda, in a statement, condemned the arrest, saying that the expansion of the authority in harassing opposition figures, journalists, businessmen, and trade unionists is evidence of confusion and inability to face current crisis. To the Russia-Ukraine war, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg says it is important Sweden and Finland join the organization as soon as possible, but ratifying them at the same time was not the main question. Finland and Sweden must gain approval from all 30 members before joining the military alliance formally. Mr. Stoltenberg's comments comes days after Turkey suggested it could greenlight Finland's bid to join without accepting Sweden into the alliance after far-right headliners burned a copy of the Quran outside the Turkish embassy in Stockholm last month. When quizzed about the request of President Volodymyr Zelensky for F-16 fighter jet, he said the supply of military aircraft to Ukraine is not an urgent issue, but such a discussion is on the way.
As the urgent need now is to deliver what has already been promised, to deliver the armored vehicles, the infantry fighting vehicles, the German Marders, the US Bradleys, and of course also the main battle tanks, the Leopards, and the other battle tanks that have been pledged. And we see that allies are stepping up. We need the training, we need the equipment, we need the ammunition, and that's exactly what allies are now providing and will be a top issue at the meetings at NATO. So the issue of aircraft is not the most urgent issue now, but it is an ongoing discussion, and as I've said before, we have ongoing consultations among allies on the type of systems allies should deliver to Ukraine.
A court in South Korea has granted 2 Russian men who have been stranded at the country's Incheon International Airport for months the right to apply for refugee status and leave the terminal building. The Incheon District Court this morning also rejected 1 other Russian national's plea for asylum without detailing the reasons for the decision. The 3 had landed at the airport in October after fleeing Russia to avoid being drafted to fight in Ukraine. South Korea's Justice Ministry rejected the applications for refugee status, saying that avoiding military service did not qualify as a valid reason for receiving asylum in South Korea. However, a lawyer representing the 3, Lee Jong-chang, said the court's decision on the 2 was welcomed, but it is regrettable that the court rejected the other one's plea. The head of Syrian opposition-run rescue group has denounced the United Nations decision to seek authorization from Syrian President Bashar al-Assad for the delivery of aid of earthquake-stricken northwestern Syria through additional border crossings with Turkey. Head of the White Helmets, Raid al-Saleh, told newsmen that the decision was shocking and the group was at loss at how the UN is behaving, adding that it allows Mr. al-Assad score a political gain. The comment comes after UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres yesterday said Mr. al-Assad had agreed to allow UN aid deliveries to opposition-held territories through 2 more crossings on the border with Turkey for an initial period of 3 months. The agreements to open the Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Raheh crossings to UN aid followed a meeting in Damascus between al-Assad and UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths, who spent the weekend visiting affected areas in southern Turkey and northwestern Syria. In the United States, a gunman has fatally shot 3 people at Michigan State University and wounded 5 others before killing himself. According to the interim deputy chief of the campus police department, Chris Rosman, the attacker opened fire yesterday night at an academic building named Becky O. Rosman said 2 of the victims were killed in Becky O and a third was killed in the student union building. Police said that the gunman fatally shot himself off campus later. The wounded were all listed in critical condition early this morning. His motive behind the attack was not immediately clear, although Rosman said the 43-year-old man had no known affiliation with the university.
We understand. I can only imagine the emotion that's involved right now. It's going to help us, and it's going to help our response, and it's going to help us identify the shooter, the less people that are on campus at this point. Please do not come to campus. We are doing everything we can to ensure the safety of our campus and all of our students. We currently have hundreds of police officers and law enforcement officials, state, local, and federal, on campus working in a coordinated effort to ensure the safety of campus and identify and apprehend the suspect. All campus activities will be canceled for the next 48 hours, including sporting events, classes, and all campus-related activities.
Meanwhile, United States President Joe Biden has fired the architect of the Capitol, a figure responsible for the upkeep and operation of the buildings of the House, Congress, and other key government offices. Brett Blanton, a civil engineer appointed to the role under former President Donald Trump, faced accusations of administrative, ethical, and policy violations, as well as bipartisan condemnation for his actions during the Capitol attack on January 6, 2021. His termination yesterday came shortly after the chair of the Administration Committee in the House of Representatives and Wisconsin Republican Brian Stay issued a call for Blanton to immediately resign. The top Republican in the House, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, likewise said that either Blanton should leave office or President Biden should remove him immediately. Mr. McCarthy noted that the architect of the Capitol, Brett Blanton, no longer has his confidence to continue the job. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We'll be right back after this break.
The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Spring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history.
You're welcome back on Spring Global on Western Spring Television. The candidates contesting for the Osun Central Senatorial District under different political parties today were invited for the maiden edition of a parliamentary debate series of Western Spring Television and our sister station, Rave 91.7 FM. Olayinka Ali files in a detailed report of the debate.
It was all fireworks in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, today as 3 candidates for Osun Central Senatorial seats presented their plans and programs to the public on the maiden edition of the parliamentary debate series of Western Spring Television and Rave 91.7 FM. Present were candidates of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, Mr. Kola Bamigbola, Senator Ajibola Bashiru of the APC, and Mr. Oyibode Babalola of Labour Party. Meanwhile, the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Olubiyi Fadeyi Ajagunla, was conspicuously absent, although he was invited. Candidate representing the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP for the Osun Central Senatorial Districts, Kola Bamigbola, while speaking, reiterated the need for grassroots engagement with the masses as part of the dividends of democracy.
Us. Now, in NNPP, our watchword is we need new Nigeria. Like I first said in my introduction. The new Nigeria I'm talking about is what the old orders have caused this nation. We need to change it. We can't continue like this. For example, it's supposed not to be a thing of good. If people elected you into power and they now see you on 4 years routine, it's not a good thing. You should be close to people that elect you. In my own ideology and the ideology of our own party, we believe that we are close to the masses. And if we are given the opportunity, we are going to voice the voice of the masses out.
Mr. Bamigbola maintains that the party is united, saying Osun Central needs a voice that can amplify the needs of the constituents, and he considers himself fit for the task.
It needs people-oriented program, not solar light. Not giving people addressing whatever and whatever. If you believe you have empowered people, they can buy those things by themselves. They can buy it. But the development of democracy that we are expecting is not all those stipend, people-oriented program that can give the youths their future, whereby their future will be benefited.
Senator Ajibola Bashiru of the All Progressive Congress APC, who is seeking re-election, read out his achievements in the last 3 years of being in the National Assembly. Senator Ajibola expressed confidence that the electorate would vote for him once again.
As a first-timer, I was made chairman of the Senate Committee on Diaspora and Non-Government Organization. It was at that time that the South African Nigeria Binational Commission was established with our initiative to ensure that we address the problem of attack of xenophobia in South Africa. Within 1 year of my being in the Senate, I was appointed spokesperson of the Senate and the representative of the Nigerian Senate in the Association of Senate, Shura, and Equivalent Council in Africa and the Middle East. And in terms of facilitating projects, you see, it's a question of evaluation. I've told you, if anybody that want to negative solar light should go to Ojoba and say that the solar light should be removed, you will see the kind of reaction you get from the market women. Aside solar light, I've completed 12 schools in Osun Central Senatorial District within 3.5 years. In Osogbo alone, 4 schools: Muslim Grammar School, Akon Baptist Primary School, Laro Grammar School, and AUD Primary School. Also in the Repodo local government, as I speak now, Eweta Primary School, 9 blocks of classroom and 9 classrooms have been completed in 2 blocks in Eweta Primary School. There's also school in Iragbiji, in Ora, Igbomino, in Ibajo, and across the senatorial district.
Senator Bashiru expressed confidence that he has done well in the areas of infrastructure, education, and other areas.
These are very impactful projects on our people. So I want to say that at this time in Imo, I've done impactful projects on the people of Osun Central, and I'm poised to do more and being elected as a ranking senator of the federal.
Revealing his political blueprint at the debate was also the candidate of Labour Party, Oyibode Babalola, who stated that the party is determined to change the political paradigm of Nigeria through its presidential candidate, Peter Obi.
So this time around, it is the masses that want a change, and they are determined to have the change, and they are going to vote out there to bring in a new Nigeria entirely under Peter Obi.
Mr. Babalola, who however commended the incumbent senator representing Osun Central, Ajibola Bashiru, for his achievements so far, says he hopes to achieve more by ensuring accountability and bridging the gap between constituents and representatives.
What I'll do better is, one, I'll get myself more endeared to those who are sending me to Abuja. I'll get closer to them, representing them very well. Feedbacks. Before I go, we have to debate, talk with them, so I know what they have and what they want. When I get there, I'll come back, link up with them, let them know what we are doing up there, so that even if I'm not there, they'll be speaking in defense of what I did. There's that gap between the elected and those that elected him.
The legislative election comes up on February 25th, same day as the presidential. Olayinka Ali, Western Spring Television News.
Indian tax authorities have raided the offices of the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, in the country in the wake of a documentary that examined Prime Minister Narendra Modi's role in 2002 anti-Muslim riots. According to the BBC in a tweet, the BBC News Department's press office this morning said the tax authorities were currently at the BBC offices in New Delhi and Mumbai. It was gathered that those in the offices at the time of the raid were not allowed to leave, and employees scheduled for night shifts were told not to come in pending further advice. However, the Indian government did not immediately release any details on the search. The raids come weeks after Modi's government banned a BBC documentary titled India, the Modi Question, which probes his role in the anti-Muslim riots in 2002 in the state of Gujarat, where he was chief minister at the time. And out of sport, the Champions League is back with 2020 finalist Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain locking arms in the Stade des Princes for the first leg of a competition, round of 16. World Cup winner and PSG Lionel Messi is set to return for the Parisians after missing the defeat at Monaco with an hamstring injury. Kylian Mbappe has also missed the last 3 games and though returned to training at the weekend after recovering from a thigh injury. Today's game may come too soon. Jan Sommer will continue between the sticks for Bayern amid a long-term absence of Manuel Neuer, who was injured skiing before the new year. Joshua Kimmich sat out Saturday's easy win over Bochum through suspension, but will now return, while Thomas Müller, forced off at halftime in that game, should be fit as well. Before we end Spring Global, here's a recap of our top stories. The candidates contesting for the Osun Central Senatorial District under different political parties today were invited for the maiden edition of the parliamentary debate series of Western Spring Television and our sister station, Rave 91.7 FM. A gunman has fatally shot 3 people at Michigan State University and wounded 5 others before killing himself. Indian tax authorities have raided the offices of the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, in the country in the wake of a documentary that examined Prime Minister Narendra Modi's role in 2002 anti-Muslim riots. According to the BBC, you can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Okwayemuni. Thanks for watching.